Hey, Warren Eckstein here. I've been talking to you guys on the radio and TV for almost 50 years. And the bottom line is one of the more common questions I get is, Warren, I call my dog and it's like talking to the wind. It's like talking to air. My dog doesn't respond. Why doesn't my dog come when I call him? Well, probably it's your fault. Let me just take a little bit from my book, How to Get Your Dog to Do What You Want. One of the biggest mistakes that an owner, I wrote the book owner, now I use the term guardian, can make is to use the come command as a correction. How many times have you seen a dog misbehaving and its owner react by calling the dog to come, either by yelling or overly correcting the dog when he does? Perhaps you're even guilty yourself. Think about it. If you call your dog to you to correct the dog or say, bad dog, phooey, what did you do? Why should the dog come back the next time? It's like if my father called me and when I got there, he punished me. Why am I coming back so quickly? A couple of things to remember. You should only call your dog when you can give him a positive reaction when he gets to you. Another critical factor is never use the dog's name in conjunction with the word no. I joke about this all the time, but how many people actually do this? What they'll do is they'll see the dog doing something wrong and they'll say, Duke, get over here, or Rover, get over here. What did you do? Bad dog, phooey. And when the dog comes to them, they say, what did you do? Phooey, bad dog, bad dog. Why would the dog come back? So, little tip. Use the dog's name only for positive things. When something good is going to come at the end of it, that can make all the difference in the world. Another little tip here also is so many people call their dog. Let's say your dog's running around in the backyard. He's having an absolute ball back there. And you call your dog and you take him right inside and he's got to sit or stay or go whatever. But he wasn't enjoying the outside anymore. So he associates a negative with being called. You're at the dog park. He's playing with his buddies. They're playing football, tetherball, whatever they're doing. You call your dog back again. Take him away from the park. Again, a negative association. Try to make sure when you call your dog that you're sure that there's going to be a positive end to it. A couple of things I recommend. Number one is here's the way most dogs are taught to come. Most trainers and behaviors, including myself early on, would do this. They do some basic training with the dog sit, stay down. Then they put the dog in a sit-stay, and they go to the end of the 6-foot leash, and they call their dog to them, and they'll say, Fluffy, come, and they reel the dog in, and the dog comes, and they give him a lot of praise. Great way to start. Incredible way to start. Again, a very positive association. However, think about this. How often do you call your dog when the dog is sitting still? It's usually when he's chasing a squirrel in the backyard, someone's at the front door, and you say to your dog, come, and the dog is like he's never heard the word before. So here's what I'm going to recommend that you do. Number one, as I said earlier, only use the name with positive associations and only call the dog when there's going to be a positive result at the end of it. No yelling, no screaming, none of that nonsense. But here is the most important part. As I just said, most dogs will, how often do you call your dog when they're sitting still? You call them when they're crazed. What I recommend that you do is you can practice with the 6-foot and call the dog, come, put him in a stay, hey, good boy. All that's really important. I don't want to negate that. But the questions I get on the radio and TV were, Warren, my dog's chasing another dog and I can't get him to come back. So it's important to teach the dog to come when motion is actually involved. How do you do that? Well, once you've got the dog coming from a 6-foot lead, maybe you can go to a 10-foot lead or a 12-foot lead and longer and longer and longer. Once you get the dog responding to that, what you can start doing is walking with the dog on your side, then all of a sudden start walking backwards, calling the dog to you. What have I just accomplished? Number one, the dog and you are facing this direction. You're stepping back. You're calling the dog, which means the dog has to respond by turning around and looking at you. And you're walking backwards. So now the dog is coming while it's walking, not from a sitting still position. If you're consistent with that, it can make all the difference in the world, teaching the dog to come from motion. The other thing that's critical is once you get the dog responding to that, I know what you're going to say, Warren, but how do I get the dog to do it when he's not on a leash? Well, once you perfect it on the leash, and you want to use what's called a light line or maybe a 20-foot leash, then in an enclosed area or backyard or schoolyard, what you can do where there's no escape for the dog, let him off the leash, call him to you. If he doesn't come back, what's your reaction? It's not to yell. It's not to get angry. I know it's frustrating. What I want you to do is put his leash, harness back on and start from scratch, calling him to you, then let him off the leash again. If he doesn't come, back on the leash till he associates coming with something that consistently he's going to have to do. And just make sure every time the dog comes to you, it's like he hit the lottery. Good dog, what a great dog. All of that's very, very important. But the most important thing that people need to understand is if you're looking for the perfect dog, you're never going to find the perfect dog, but you can get an 85, 90% response. I'm not talking about the military dogs or the police dogs I work with. I'm talking about your dog, Fluffy at home that lives in your house with your yard. So again, start off by doing your basic training. Then what I want you to do is, we go to the extent of the leash, put the dog in a sit stay, call the dog to you, reel the dog in, tremendous amount of praise, get down to that level. If you're not really excited, the dog's not going to respond. Once you get him coming from stationary position, go a little bit longer, maybe 10 feet, 12 feet. Then what I want you to do is I want you to start working with him in terms of coming from motion. And as I said, let him walk alongside you. All of a sudden you step back, walking backwards, calling the dog to you. You're teaching the dog to come while he's in motion, which is going to really benefit you when he's chasing that squirrel in the backyard. And then you want to go to that light line. Once you've accomplished the dog coming in motion, you want to go to that light line, let him run around in an enclosed area, call him to. If he doesn't come back on a leash, off the leash, back on a leash, he will get the idea, I promise. The most critical thing that you need to understand about getting your dog to respond to you is that he wants to come back. He wants to get there. So that's why I never use the dog's name for anything negative. If he's doing something wrong, just the word no is fine, or fooey, whatever word you want to use. His name is always positive. So when he hears the name right off the bat, he wants to turn because he's going to get something good or something great's going to happen. I'm going to do a part 2 on getting your dog to come when called down in the future because it's important for people to understand. But I want you to really focus on not getting frustrated. If you call your dog and he doesn't come to you, it's not the dog's fault. It's your fault. Why? Because you didn't take the time to teach him the proper thing to do is to come when called. Make it positive. Follow my method. Listen, having trained over 40,000 dogs, I can tell you this method really, really works. But here's the other thing that's important. Sometimes you're in a hurry. Sometimes you're running out the door and the dog's in the backyard and you call a dog and he doesn't come. And when he finally does get in the house, you're angry. You got to get out and you're correcting. And again, dogs learn from association. So if you do it 9 times perfectly and the 10th time you blow it, that's the time the dog's going to remember. So be consistent, make it fun, practice yourself, and make sure everyone within the family is doing it the same way. If you call a dog and you practice what I said and getting the dog to come and praising him, another member of the family calls the dog and the dog doesn't come and he just walks away, you're just making the dog totally neurotic. What's the definition of neurosis? What's right, what's wrong? I don't know what to do. Be consistent, have fun with it, give your dog a big hug and a kiss when he comes to you, and I promise you, he'll come more consistently, even when he sees that squirrel in the backyard. Part 2 coming up in the not-too-distant future. I'm Warren Eckstein. Thanks for taking a look at my YouTube channel.